So as you guys have noticed, as you walked in, you're seeing this lovely space that's very New York, it's very street art, it has a very eclectic feel to it. It's actually Lab Arts, it's the largest street art gallery in the United States. It's a fun place where artists, if you come here on a day-to-day basis, you'll see artists both who do traditional tagging all the way to the Marylands you see behind you. It's a very lovely and welcoming space. And it's actually brought to you by Rachel and Iskander, who are in the back. They're the ones who are presenting tonight, which is our first of a series of conversations called Q&A Legal Walls. And it is a community forum where street artists such as Desire, Obtain Cherish, Lydia Emily, and Daniel get to talk with Tanner the Planner from the LACD about about the whole issue of public art and how it actually affects street artists. And on the panel tonight, we have Tanner the Planner, who's actually the one who actually writing the new mural policy that allows and legalizes and clarifies the whole issue of legal walls. Then we have Desire, Obtain Cherish, who's a very well-known street artist. He went to Parsons and has done everything from Freewalls in Madrid this last year to advertising campaigns. He kind of straddles both worlds. We have Lydia Emily, who is kind of notorious. She's done, her new upcoming gallery will be on Tibetan monks. So it's going to be kind of a fun show. And then we have Daniel, who's actually spearheaded it. If you know anything about the mural issue, he's spearheaded a lot of the public art in Southern California. And also tonight we have John Darnell, who is from the 5th Council from the LA City Council's office, and he's going to say a few words.
Hi everyone, my name is John. I work for Los Angeles City Council member Paul Perez. And as you know, murals are a big part of Los Angeles history. We like murals. Unfortunately, a few years ago, they were essentially banned from the sign ordinance that was more or less illegal. So some people think we're being soft and why not, maybe getting rid of them or not, but we need to strike a balance in what we can do with the sign ordinance because they can't be good. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm here to represent. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me. And also, as everybody knows, this area it has a heavy concentration of art galleries. There's about 50 art galleries in this area. From the border of West Hollywood to Wilshire, from La Brea to La Cienega. There's a mural from our art block that happens quarterly. This is a really great area with art galleries, and we're great supporters on that.
So I guess it's me. I'm going to go ahead and stand up, and I'm going to give a kind of loose version of a presentation I gave in City Hall on January 10th. This is sort of, I'm actually really kind to you guys. This is an issue we've been dealing with for quite a while, and I'll go through the details in a minute. So I am Tanner Blackman. I work for the City Planning Department, and this is a really cool issue. I'm really excited that I've been able to work on this for a while now. I work for the City Planning Department, and most of what the City Planning Department does is sort of rule enforcement. If you want to open a new bar or build a new tower or whatnot, you have to ask our permission to do so. And so about 80 or so percent of the job of what our work is just sort of weighing those sort of discretionary applications. But I get to work in a section of the department called Code Studies, where we actually get to take a step back and think about the very rules themselves and propose new ways of doing things and workshopping these ideas with the public and then sort of writing the new proposed legislation and seeing it through the adoption process all the way through City Council. And so it's very neat and empowering work I get to do where you actually sort of get to, instead of just being a rule enforcer, come up with the new rules. John, thanks for being here. This is a really cool spot. Iskander and Rachel, thanks for hosting. I've been to a few events at Lab Art, and I was really excited that they wanted to invite us out. I'm trying to reach as many different areas of the city as possible, and on this issue, there's a sort of built-in audience that all of these gallery owners and different people, I was like, hey, you have spaces, you have mailing lists, you have amenities. Please invite me out so I can try to reach as many people. And so far in these meetings, we've reached, a month ago, it was over 500 people. I don't even know how it is now in these series of meetings that we've been having throughout the city. in my conversations with your office, John, too, I know that the council members expressed that he's really thinks it's quite neat the way that sort of on Fairfax and here in La Brea has been the sort of art district forming, and the council office is really supportive of both the work we're doing here with the ordinance and with art in this community. So with that, I'll begin. This is not January 10th, but I went ahead and used the same presentation that I gave in City Hall on January 10th for consistency's sake. Which way does this go? This will work. There we go. As an overview, I'm going to talk briefly about why we even have a silly mural prohibition in the first place, and the recent direction from the City Council to both preserve existing murals and permit new ones. We have a draft ordinance out where there's copies of it up there. We're in the middle of a 60-day public comment period. Please, grab a copy of your draft ordinance, and my email's on there and everything if you want to give me actual comments, because that's why I'm here to get some input and have a conversation. Then I also talk about a few next steps to get any mural ordinance adopted. Before I jump into the actual details of that, one thing that's always kind of fun to get people thinking, and feel free to yell out, we're going to play a little game called Is This a Mural? So, I ask you, is this a mural?
Yes.
Yes. Yes? Do we have 100% unanimity in this opinion? Anybody want to dissent? No? Okay. Why is this a mural? Anybody?
Lots of color, it takes up the whole wall.
Cool, so careful with the paint on wall. Say that, right? Pretty much that. Paint on wall, artistically rendered. I'll call that a mural. As a starting point for a definition. This one in particular kind of has, it tells a story here too. There's sort of figurative storytelling going on here. Kind of in what I think a lot of people think of when they think of murals is this sort of secure tradition of muraling where there's this sort of figurative storytelling going on. So maybe this is even kind of classically a mural. This one you can't see in the light, so I'll skip past it, but this one's similar. You would say this is a mural, but this one's different because it's on a piece of public infrastructure. It's actually on public property. The first one was on a wall. There's a difference in that which will become important. Is this a mural?
Yes.
Yes, it is. For similar reasons, paint on wall. So the first few, everybody kind of agrees are murals when they see them. I've never had anybody give me conflicting arguments for those first three images. This one, though, is this a mural? Anybody?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody care to offer an alternate opinion? Mr. Lahoda, perhaps?
It's a hand-painted piece of original artwork.
Yes, is there anything that might run afoul of muralism in Los Angeles?
Not that I would be concerned
Wait,
with.
wait, wait, wait. I want to see if I can find it.
We played this game how many times?
It's like where's Waldo?
Okay, I'm going to give it to you. We have a weird definition, which I'll show you in a minute, that in order to be considered a mural in the city of Los Angeles, the work of art may not be comprised of more than 3% text. So I've not measured how much of this actually takes up for that, but potentially, if that were over 3%, this could not be a mural. Is this a mural?
No,
Ooh, why?
because it's got a Coca-Cola logo on it.
Anybody else?
Oops.
Wrong. This is a mural. This is actually part of a bigger mural that wraps around the side of two buildings in Highland Park on this like AT&T building. And it, so this is just like a close-up shot of it. And so this mural is called The History of Highland Park. And this was a photograph. This part of the mural was from a photograph of like actual local high school kids in Highland Park back in the day when it was taken. And this was a store that was there, and the mural was painted the real image of real people living there. And so they decided to keep the Coca-Cola there. In a former life before I became a policy wonk and an urban planner, I studied literature and creative writing. And our professors would always tell us to put real things in our writing that people can latch onto and relate to. And so this is kind of weird. It raises some questions because I went to this mural is about 30 or so years old. It was recently restored and rededicated, and I was invited by the council member, CD14, to come out to the dedication, and a representative from Coca-Cola was gleefully buying extra copies of this print to pass around her office and hang out. So this is the official city mural collection or database, but it does have this. They considered changing it during the restoration to a lot of dissatisfaction from the community, saying, no, this picture, this is our community. So I don't know. The whole point of this exercise is to complicate what is and isn't a mural. This idea that we might think that we know. Is this a mural, anybody? Or was this a mural?
Yes. Yes.
Cool, so remember the 3% rule I mentioned? I, for one, cannot read retina script, but I'm told those are letters. Then this part, it's figurative. I guess that would be okay. Revokes piece right there. Letters again. I'll explain in a minute, but this weird 3% rule was actually put there in 1986 as a protection for art and a protection for the sort of type of muraling that was prevalent at the time, but became a hindrance to the development of whole new styles of art. And so it's a sharp lesson on how today's good ideas can very easily become tomorrow's unintended consequences. And what we really want to try to avoid is those sort of things in how we're drafting this legislation today. Again, is this a mural? 3% rule. So no, this is the city of LA. This could not be a mural. I like this one. This is in the city of Philadelphia. They have a really good and renowned mural arts program, and so this is an actual official civic mural in the city of Philadelphia. It's not just this building. A lot of people look at this building and they think it's maybe advertising something, and that it might be advertising back rub or migraine medicine or something. But it's actually a poem that runs through this whole community. It's on like rooftops and bridges, and it's quite neat. I would like to live in a city where such things could be considered murals. Is this a mural? Yes. It's actually an unfinished picture. I need to update this one.
Yes.
Anybody else? Is this a mural? Everybody? Okay. This, in the definition of mural that we currently have right now, murals, there's no such thing as a mural in the city of LA. There are only mural signs. Murals are regulated in the sign code as a type of sign. So the parent definition is sign. Signs are there, the definition of sign is something that's there to attract the attention of the public and communicate a message. I challenge you to find the message being communicated here, except for the medium is the message, right? I, for one, do not require my art to tell me anything. I think that that's valid, that there's anarcho-nihilistic art that communicates nothing. So I don't think that perhaps sign is the right category for murals. Is there a mural on this image? Anybody?
Yes.
So clearly there's signage. It's a restaurant, Playa Las Tunas restaurant. Below that, there's a frolicking lagoon scene. It's a seafood restaurant. So perhaps that's just advertising, but they don't serve dolphin nor mermaid. So I say it's just a picture. And again, I can imagine a permitting system wherein, God forbid, Playa Las Tunas ever closes down, that the next retail tenant of this space would pull a sign permit to change out their signage, and a separate sort of accessible mural permit to paint whatever they want to on their wall. I've lived in Koreatown along 3rd Street and 8th Street. There's all these like Central American and markets that have like frutas on the side of it. There's this whole folk art tradition that I don't want to be the guy that says you can't do that. But we get into areas of subjectivity and where people start to either like things or not, and that's really difficult to regulate. This one's kind of weird because there is a ban on outdoor advertising in our city. This, in a way, this is like below a window on a market, and in a way, this functions in the public realm as outdoor advertising, but I don't think that this property owner is receiving payment from Cheetos or Ajax for the placement of this image on their wall. So what is it? I don't know. I do think that there ought to be space for example, business owners like the previous slide to adorn their property with art. These are some of the issues we have to grapple with in writing some workable, defensible definition for what is art versus what is advertising. There are, however, some clear lines we can draw. All due respect to Mr. Lister and his artistry, this is a hand-painted billboard for the release of a DVD. And we have a ban on outdoor advertising in our city. And it ain't just me. It's kind of like if we're going to try to get a mural ordinance passed, this is what our city attorneys are worried about, that this is going to somehow be abused for advertising. And so some of the sort of limitations in the ordinance I might not like, but we might have to live with because people are worried about such things as this. Nor is this a mural. This is a very common occurrence in my neighborhood of Koreatown. We are not writing a vandalism ordinance here. I'm not changing the rules about graffiti. There's a very sort of narrow policy goal here of how to let people paint on their own walls in a sensible manner. So street artists, don't worry, you can be as illegal as you want to be. Huh? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's kind of the same thing, right?
But we're only talking about permission walls then. So if you're doing it for... this is the source of the issue. These definitions were written in 1986. As I mentioned before, a sign is any whole or part of a display board, wall screen, or object used to announce, declare, demonstrate, display, or otherwise present a message and attract the attention of the public. Then there's some overlap between what is a wall sign or a mural sign. They could both be painted. Wall signs are supposed to advertise like Joe's Cleaners or whatnot. And the sort of is even sign the correct parent category. These are all issues that we have to think about in trying to unwrite these definitions and rewrite it in a new way. The real question, I think everybody knows this by now, so I should actually change the slide. Are murals banned in LA? Yes, sadly. And no, kind of a little bit. There's a few ways that murals may currently be prohibited, so it's not like an absolute ban that we have right now. On city property, we own it. There's such thing as government speech protections. We can adorn public buildings as we like. Similarly, within the city of LA, there is property that is owned by the county or the state or the federal government. They have the same protections. That's how LAUSD can have mural programs, or Caltrans could, if they wanted to fund it, have murals on the freeway. And in the city of LA, right now, the way it reads that you can only do murals on private property in a legally adopted specific plan, supplemental use district, or development agreement. And these have proven very, very limiting to the creation of new art in our communities over the past 9 years since it's been that way. Why? Why on earth? Why do we do this? Prior to 1986, there were no regulations on the books at all in the city of LA governing murals. From the perspective of the thing being regulated, that's the preferable position to be in. If there's no definition, no regulations, anything goes. That's sort of how we had the flowering of the birth of the mural movement that we had in the late 60s through the 80s, and how we really became the mural capital of the world. We've always been a city that supported the arts, and in 1986, what we actually tried to do when we wrote that previous definition was create a new exemption for art in the new signage regulations that we were creating. So I've been working on like sign issues for 3 years for the city of LA, and everybody hates like digital billboards and wall wraps, and they've been having these same conversations for 26 years in the city of LA about, back then it was about hand-painted billboards and different stuff. And most cities just regulate signage as part of their building code because we have such a huge media market, because we are LA. We, in 1986, the powers that be, that were at that time, took the signage regulations out of the building code and put them into the zoning code in order to exert more control over the signage while trying to carve out an exemption for murals. Where we messed up is that we called them a type of sign. So instead of just making a carve out for murals, we made a carve out for mural signs. Not just us, but several other cities that have any type of large media market that had similar exemptions in their codes were all sued in the late 90s by the outdoor advertising industry. industry under the claim that by having this exemption, we were unconstitutionally privileging one type of protected speech, art, over another type of protected speech, advertising. And therefore, if we were going to give unlimited space in our city for art, we must also give unlimited space in our city for advertising. The city council members said we can't do that, and they created sign districts in 2002 as the out while they sort of created this ban that we said, okay, we'll kind of generally ban them the same way we do billboards, but we'll allow them in these areas, these sign districts and such. The problem with that, nonetheless, until 2007, we continued to approve some on private property, and it was this weird mix-up where the city wasn't communicating with itself. But the problem with the sign districts approach is that those tools, those zoning tools, only have benefited major projects. So, like, think LA Live, where there's huge new billboards up. They're a sign district, but Coca-Cola's paying, artists aren't paying, so that's why that gets up there, not art. So art loses out to commerce, like it always has. So in October, after much talk for years, we received direction from the city council to finally affirmatively do something about this, to one, preserve and protect existing murals and also enable the creation of new murals. At the same meeting, they asked us to report back with another part that's sort of a bigger conversation with the city about how we can find ways to fund public art again, because we haven't been doing that in any real way for about the past decade. But this is important for me for people to sort of, the first part is what the city planning department can contribute. We regulate the built environment, what you can build on a given piece of property, how high it can be, how many units it can have, how much parking you have to put there. And part of that, we regulate even signage and aesthetics. And so this is kind of what we can do to allow an easy, accessible, sensible system for people to paint on their own walls. Here's some terms which I won't bore you with, but if you want to look this up, it's on our slideshow now. We are going to create an original art mural permit that is only an administrative permit, meaning we won't have any discretion over the content of the mural. And as a zoning code approach, we can only regulate things like duration, placement, location, material, or historic protections, like time, place, manner, things. We can't get into our own content. So we will be content neutral. We also have to, doing that because of the First Amendment, we also have to think about implementation and costs and those sort of things to administer a new permit for murals. So, as I mentioned before, on December 7th, we released, I want to copy it. We released a draft ordinance. This is kind of what it looks like if it were on a wall. And Ed Fuentes, he did this, I loved it. I'm going to frame it and put it in the envelope. But, so the way we do this nowadays is we give a 60-day comment period. So on December 7th, we released this draft language, and we're accepting comments until February 8th. We don't stop listening at that point. We have to give a sort of deadline to turn around the commentary we're receiving. This is an easier issue to how to preserve existing murals. Prior to the ban, any mural that was created is legal. It was created at a time when they were legal. However, there's no affirmative statement to that in code, and there's been sort of enforcement issues and maintenance issues because nobody's sort of, if it was created in a time when there was no documentation, no permitting, then there's no documentation of who owns it, who's responsible for it, or whatnot. But there are 1,615 murals in the city database that we know of, and presumably thousands more. So kind of for purposes of cultural patrimony, it would be nice to know what's out there. However, we're not going to make this permit like mandatory. How can we even enforce it anyway? This is a big question in the city of LA. Like, should we compel people to get these vintage mural permits if they have a vintage mural on their wall? I'm trained as an economist, so I very much fear unintended consequences. And if you compel people to get a vintage mural permit for an already existing mural, it may be easier to just whitewash the mural than it is to get the permit. So you may end up resulting in the destruction of the very same thing you're trying to save. So the way that this will kind of work is if there's ever an issue, your neighbor ever complains or something, there'll be a way to prove that the mural is sort of a certain age. I'm taking your comments on what's valid proof of that. So if you have any ideas, let me know. The how to permit new murals is the thornier question. In October, when we presented to the city council, we presented a few different approaches. That's what my head worked in the earlier part of this year was, these are different ways we could do this. The city council voted to move forward with this original art mural administrative time, place, manner, permit approach. The purpose of which is to allow original art murals with no regulations on content in a simple, accessible way. Basically just define murals as an original work of visual art that is painted on, attached to, or titled to a wall, produced by hand. So, and leave it sort of wide open and not get into any 3% rules or other things that could complicate enforcement. This is an approach that, we'll get to that discussion.
Sorry.
This is an approach that Portland already kind of has an ordinance like this that they adopted in the summer of 2009. We've been talking about it since early 2009. There's been this sort of like history of these Department of Social Affairs reports and motions from the city council members, and then finally it became our direction in October of this past year. And the way it works and the way that the definition alone, original work of visual art, you may not know, is a legal term that has precedent in the Visual Arts Rights Act federally and the California Arts Preservation Act. So that alone, that term, would prohibit sort of advertising campaigns. But in addition to that, there's a couple built-in rules. And I think there's going to be people here who definitely don't like the top one here, which those first two bullets would be further disincentives for this program to be used for advertising. So the idea is that if we make you keep the mural up at least a certain amount of time, then it won't be changed out for advertising. Some people like this rule. They want to make iconic murals that are going to be there forever and tell the story of the community. Other people want changing out walls, like the Crenshaw wall or De La Barracuda wall or different things. I feel you. Again, the city attorneys are going to be worried more than anything about advertising, so some kind of duration requirement might have to be in there for this program. If you remember my other slide about the part 2, I think there are ways to approach sort of changing out walls through public art approaches that are not this ordinance. And then the final sort of disincentive for this being used for advertising would that the building owner cannot receive compensation for the placement of the image on the wall. So it doesn't prohibit the artist from receiving payment for doing the work, but you basically can't buy wall space. You already can. It's called advertising. It's something different. The next couple bullets seem kind of weird, like may not exceed the height of the structure. Seems obvious, but and can't have stuff like sticking out. In order so that you guys don't have to deal with multiple city agencies, because we're tough to deal with anyways, that Building and Safety doesn't want to give out these permits. It's kind of why city planning is doing it. Building and Safety doesn't care what color your walls are, red, white, or kaleidoscopic. They only care that they're safe to be in. So city planning, we kind of care more about placemaking and community development and these kind of things. So these 3 rules are kind of to make sure that nobody's going to build a wall just to mural it. The neighborhood involvement process is sort of a big selling point. There can be no discretion about this permit. So we're not going to make muralists go to the neighborhood councils and sort of, hey, do you like this? But what we're going to ask you to do is sort of hold some sort of meeting and make the image available to your neighbors and have a discussion and document that you've done that. That rule, we hope, serves as kind of like a good neighbor policy, but they really can't have a veto over it. It'll be a simple sort of administrative application and small fee, and voila, we've created a new concept called muralage in the city of LA, and we have a defensible definition and a legally enforceable system of giving simple permits for people to paint on their walls. This will encourage murals citywide. I like to use this phrase, let art happen. In as much as possible, what I'm trying to do with these efforts is recreate the spirit of that before 1986 approach, where just anything goes. So we hope that this will do that. We need a clear definition that separates art from mural signs, and it meets these sort of constraints that we are working in. The issues are not tough, just the normal sort of training and implementation. And this bottom one's kind of interesting. There's only been a few cities who have adopted a mural ordinance like this. So our city attorneys are kind of worried that this is an untested approach. It hasn't been legally challenged yet, and the assumption is that as soon as LA does it, we'll get sued because we always do. I think they're right, but I also think that's how it works. So I fear not. We are right here in our public outreach phase of how a bill becomes a law in the city of LA. And then there's a whole lot of legislative process before us, but we're moving quick because there's a lot of interest. The council members are clamoring for this. And sometimes these issues can get hung up for years as it goes through the legislative process. I think there's a lot of wind behind ourselves right now. But we still have to go to the City Planning Commission for their recommendation, to the Planning Committee. In this case, it's weird because it's two committees of the City Council meeting together, the Planning Committee and the Arts Committee. And then have to be reviewed by the city attorney before full adoption by the city council. Best case scenario, we're looking at 5 months of legislative process before we have a mural ordinance delivered to the fine citizens of the city of Los Angeles. But it's not bad. Like, it's good to get it right. We've been in this position for 9 years now, so let's make sure we get it right. I mentioned our public participation 60-day comment period. I don't stop listening on February 8th, so email me anytime, but I want to get the ball rolling. So it takes a while to kind of turn around all the comments that we receive into the final official recommendations and then take them to the City Planning Commission. The soonest I could probably get scheduled for the City Planning Commission is in March. I'm going to present on February 16th to the Cultural Affairs Commission to update them on what we've been doing and, like I said, moving forward. So that's basically, this one, I forgot what I said, this is cool. So what I've already been hearing already, I like to anticipate some of these things, is in the ordinance, the draft ordinance right now, there's a $199 fee that's being proposed for this mural permit. People make really strong arguments that since we're not moving forward with the number 2 right now, that how the city can invest in public art again, that this fee will be a structural impediment to the creation of new art, and we should incentivize the creation of art some way and get rid of it because the city spends $30 million a year on graffiti abatement, and we should find a way to encourage the arts. I find this a very moving rationale, and I hope you keep saying it as this goes to the City Planning Commission and the City Council, because the constraints I work in, I can't really be the guy that proposes it. We have direction from City Council to make a cost-neutral program. It's kind of the cheapest we could think of it. Some people don't like the media restrictions, that sort of no moving parts, no changing images type stuff. I feel you. There's also this no digital printed vinyl limitation people don't like. Again, our city attorneys are really worried that this will be used for super graphics, so some of those media restrictions might have to be in this approach, but we're looking for other public art approaches. Again, I already mentioned the duration requirements, people don't like that. And then there's a critique that the ordinance should somehow directly refer to those laws that I mentioned already, the Federal Visual Arts Rights Act and the California Arts Preservation Act. Those laws already exist at the federal and state level and supersede anything that we would do in a local zoning ordinance. I don't really find it necessary. Nothing we can do can impede them, and people should get their works copyrighted. But those are the critiques that we've been hearing so far. If you have more, I want to hear them. That's basically it. Tanner.Blackman at LAC.org. Call me. But Justin, I'm gonna cap this so it doesn't blind me while we move into the conversation part. You guys want to turn the lights back on? So, Mr. Darnell, I'm going to give you right of first response. Do you want to say anything after seeing the presentation, or anything at all? You don't have to.
With the response, I mean, that's why I'm here, is we're in the participation process. I mean, as you know, the bill becomes a law. course, neighborhood councils will be discussing this. The city organizations divided up in neighborhoods. And of course, our communities, and especially this area, this is such a heavy concept. And so that's what I'm here. I'm going to continue to listen. And if anyone, wants to let the council know their opinion, then let me know. I'll leave some cards on the table.
Thanks for coming out. Absolutely. So, did you guys want to throw in at all? Were you leading it now? Or should I just let them respond?
I'm just going to introduce this part. If you all got the flyer handout, we're kind of going to let this part be an organic conversation between the street artists who've actually practiced making murals and actually have practical experience. And kind of the things we're going to be talking about is question of materials. What's approved, what's not approved, the question of existing materials. What's already up there? Is it legal? He mentioned there's a database of almost 200 murals, but maybe 1,600. There may be even more. So, how does it get grandfathered in that process? And also subject matter. If someone wants to, paint Jesus dancing with a nun, is it okay? Stuff of that nature. If your neighborhood council is going to be conservative, will they veto it? So I'm going to let the artist kind of talk to Tanner and just have a dialogue right now.
As you guys jump in whatever order.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll
never sit next to him again.
And how about we start with you guys there was a little introduction, but why don't you guys introduce yourself in your own words and then sort of give any just first response that you have.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Lahoda, and I am the producer of something really cool that we've been doing in downtown in the Arts District called the LA Freewalls Project. And so for the past 2 years, we've been producing public art with the community's blessing for the community. And so we've been working with a lot of international street artists to do so, and have created a really kind of cool and beautiful atmosphere down there for everybody to come and enjoy.
I'm not.
That's what I do.
I love all parts of the city of Los Angeles, but I work downtown. For the last few years, I've been teaching at SciArt. I've been teaching at SciArt in the Arts District, so I'm a big fan of what Mr. Lahoda's been creating down there, and we think it's a really cool addition to what's surrounding SciArt in the Arts District, and happy to have you do it.
I'm Lydia Emily. I'm a street artist, although technically on probation right now. I'm not doing street art. But I have done a lot of murals. On top of doing street art all over, the United States and outside of the United States, I've also done murals up and down California and San Francisco, Oakland and Los Angeles, and for a mural recently for a charter school, which we had lots of issues being able to put up. My own children's charter school. So I've done legal murals and illegal murals.
My name is Jonathan Paul. I'm designer of Obtain Cherish. I have done only illegal murals without permission. So all of this is quite a new process for me. I don't know what else to say. I'm more concerned with, things to me are more concerned with content. Obviously the type issue is a big one. A lot of my stuff incorporates a lot of type, or I make fun of a lot of things, or I have things to say that some people don't like, or they might find it rude. As well as materials. Just painting on a wall seems to be a bit limiting, I think, especially for this day and age, with the use of materials and tiling and all kinds of things that we can do. That's a big one. My bigger concerns are, I guess, more especially with advertising. 5-year law or not, Coca-Cola or not, it's very easy for me to put a tennis shoe up on a wall with a logo on it and then for it to be called advertising, even though I might be making fun of something. So it's these kinds of issues.
Are you advertising yourself as you're doing your work? Is there not inherent advertising in the very work that you're doing? And where's the line? I'm just interested in it because so next door up here, there's a new, huge Shepherd Ferry work on there, and I'm pretty sure he might make more money selling clothes nowadays than sort of artistic commissions. So at one point, does it become could you consider yourself a brand?
I suppose every artist at some point is a brand. Anything that gets big enough is a brand at some point. Anything gets recognizable on a world scale or local scale even. You have local celebrities, you have world celebrities, so.
Well, but
At
also,
some point.
it also comes down to the intention and the context of the situation. Like Shepard Fairey may be a commercial artist, and you know, we would never hold anything against an artist for working, producing work, whether it be licensing their work or selling original art to collectors. We would never want to limit that and say, well, if you're going to produce public art, then you're a billboard producer and you have to work within that, the confines of that. I think it's okay for someone like Shepard to take on projects like that. Like, he didn't get paid. That wasn't a commission thing for him. That was something that he just did to beautify the neighborhood. And so in that context, I think that's kind of what we're dealing with, is a situation of context. Now, if that was like, if he was being hired by Obey Clothing, regardless of whatever personal relationship he has with that company, that would be a specific branded advertisement, right? So, I mean, granted, there is some crossover with his art, like his art, and kind of the commercial, you know, the commercial aspects of it. So there's those things to consider, but I think mostly it really comes down to a situation of context and intention. What is the artist's intention in producing that art?
Inherent in this, since we're talking about art visible from the public realm that sort of interacts with the street, that okay, so in that definition that we're proposing right now, original work of visual art is sort of this key phrase. And this is sort of a weird issue for us city planners to take on. A lot of my bosses don't think it's really sort of core to the writing of the general plan and enforcing it through the zoning code. And they just aren't really paying attention to them. They run around the city having all these meetings and do whatever they want. And when they actually do take the time to read it and look at it, because they're going to force them to sign off on the final recommendations before long. But they sort of, this term is way too squishy. Original work of visual art. What does that mean? That could be anything. And actually, no, it couldn't. It's sort of, there's law, statutory law and case law behind it, that at both of those laws I mentioned, VAR and CAPA, it's pretty wide open on what it could be, but it does limit down sort of what's called work for hire, where people are just.
Right, but what about Lister's? What Lister's mural that he did is an original piece of art. He painted it right there, but it was clearly an ad for a movie. So does that fall under work for hire?
I think I'm going to call it a work for hire because and that's the only way that I guess would not be an original work of visual art, because it would meet some of the other definitions which Lahoda was mentioning, like the sort of, and I was going towards like placemaking and the sort of context of the wall and how it fits there, because it has to be an original work of visual art and not just a repeated, the same sort of image screen printed over and over again, you know. And so that's where I think it's sort of interesting where how some of the Obey stuff might run afoul of that. That actually, that definition, and if it was really applied in as it reads in state law and federal law, you could only do 200 copies, you know, limited edition sort of prints of 200 copies. So you could do a mural and then sell prints of that.
Sell 199 prints.
Exactly. Yeah.
But certain things that become a corporate, that become part of your corporation or part of your company, that's no longer a mural, whether you're up there painting it or not. If it's your company and you're making T-shirts and you're selling T-shirts of it or records or whatever it is, then that's an advertisement.
Because
that's
it's
like
not
Adidas. It doesn't make a difference if it's Obey or Adidas. It's a company.
Well,
This, what he's done with the, since we're talking about Shepard, what he's done with the parking structure, that's different.
It's individual to that.
Yeah, I don't see huge Obey.
But that's
Goes
the
off.
question too. What if I paint one mural 200 times in 200 cities that has an image on it, and then therefore it becomes the brand, or it becomes the thing, and then therefore it crosses over into its self-advertising?
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
but in the context of this situation, like, you're not going to paint 200 pieces in 200 spots in LA County. Like, it's just not even logical. I mean, unless you're a big corporation, right?
but in this,
So outside of this jurisdiction, like,
Sure.
yeah, paint away. Congrats.
but relevant to this gallery and its constituency, which is sort of this like street art world where there's a lot of graphic design and postering and stuff like that, that sort of repeated imaging.
People do
with-
that. I can see how
Very
somebody
branded.
could do 200
It's
images
very
in LA.
branded.
I do, like if they just chose smaller walls, but people who, you know, get their images, use them in Photoshop and then print them out, instead of doing paper, they do stencils. You could easily, I've seen 200 of the same image all over the city every day.
Well, sure, I mean, on electrical boxes, so then it comes back to the situation of context and permission. Like, I'm saying permission walls, like, you're not going to go and get get permission from 200 people and pass through all of Tanner's hoops to.
How many murals have you created in the life of?
We've done, I think we're like a little over 75 in 2 years. And that's been like, we're constantly in production on stuff. And so I can't imagine,
200, right?
I mean, like 200 electrical boxes on the corners, that's cool. Like that's like a fun night, potentially.
Is there a chance of letting the electrical boxes be decorated or?
They can be. There's nothing stopping it. Just sort of a lack of good idea and organized people and money behind it. They're public infrastructure. They're public properties. I'm from San Diego originally, and they have a ton of them done through their equivalent of the community redevelopment agency, which there's
Just so many of them, they're just so ugly, they're blank and everything, they seem like a good, that may be billboard holes.
I would love to see a public art program, like a specific, and that kind of is outside the confines of what we're discussing with the private ordinance, but what I see as stage 2, once we get this passed, is a true public art ordinance where we actually can get the city to invest in what we're all doing here, and whether it be just investing in the idea or investing in infrastructure or actually resources. Like, yeah, I would love to see DWP, who is the property owner of those boxes. It's county property, so you have to get approval from them. And I think in a lot of ways that's probably best tackled on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis.
And that's what I was going to jump to. Is Mr. Darnell's still here? I would love to see more of those in CD5, sort of painted utility boxes. The way it sort of works now is sort of, since there's not a big sort of structure in place for lots of public art programs, those sort of initiatives kind of have to happen from individual efforts, and that maybe at the neighborhood council level or those sort of things. But legally, structurally, there's nothing stopping that from being a possibility.
So what's the punishment as far as if you get caught decorating an electrical box?
It's not your property, so it's vandalism.
Yeah,
It's vandalism. It's in my probation.
It's not
Oh,
really-
so I got the show.
I mean, it's not an artist. At what point is it a vandal?
It's not your property. I mean, that's the way it was listed in my court papers. It's not my property. I don't own that box.
Yeah.
And there are different I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, 'cause I know that's.
There are different fines for everything. Whatever company has to come and clean an area charges the fine. So electrical boxes was one fine listed in my paperwork.
Set fee.
And then there's a set fee for on a freeway, another fee for near a freeway, another fee for the access road to the freeway, and then there's a street one. Each one of those is a different fine because a different company is in charge of maintaining those areas. Each one of them is an act of vandalism, and it's a matter of how much your fine is, basis on it takes it to misdemeanor or felony.
Right, I know. I'm doing.
A lower amount is misdemeanor and a higher amount is felony. And each one of those places, boxes are, unless you've been caught doing a whole bunch of them, those are misdemeanors. Everything else can, if they add up, become
Stickers
felony.
fall under the same rule.
Stickers fall under felony. Yeah, well, because the adhesive that they use on stickers, those things take more chemicals to remove. So the person whose job it is from the city to come and clean the sticker adhesive up has to use different methods. Therefore, it's a higher fine. Therefore, it takes you into felony. So stickers, even the smallest ones, can take you into felony if you get caught when wheat pasting doesn't, especially if you're cooking at home and making it biodegradable, which I don't do.
Wait, because it's a more damaging type of property
It's
damage?
a more, that's what my judge said.
Or
So they're making felonies out of artists, basically.
well, if you do illegal things, then
But you strike at bigger sort of issues where you're absolutely right, where we don't provide enough opportunities as a society, as a city, for kids to have sort of art programs, or when a lot of people who are growing up who are really active, graffiti artists or came from the graffiti art world, had places like yards and stuff that were open in the 80s and even in the early 90s where they could go and paint and were sort of like sort of let it happen, and that we really have, the city closed those over the years, and there's really no other places. And one thing that's really difficult for me in going around town and presenting to the city, presenting the city's perspective of this, is that I am only representing the city planning department and narrowly what we do, And in trying to find an answer to this question of sort of how do we let people paint on their own walls, right? Like sort of knowing that human nature is human nature and people are going to do graffiti or do vandalism or do whatnot. There are people out there who, like Daniel and his project with the LA Freewalls Project, the first time I met Daniel, he was sort of like, I would love to get permits for these projects if they existed. And sort of they don't, so he's gonna do it anyways. And for those type of permission walls, actually, right now in the city of LA, I mentioned this has really been an issue since like 2007 when we sort of stopped permitting new murals on private property. That some of the council motions we're still responding to with these efforts were from 2008, and one of them instructs the city planning department and the Department of Building and Safeties not to enforce our own mural prohibition right now. So it's kind of funny. We're like, to the best of our ability, we're trying not to enforce our own rules. If some neighbor makes a complaint, calls 311, and Building and Safety has to come out and inspect it, Building and Safety is like, our hands are tied. We have to enforce the rules on the book. But
So if somebody called and complained about a wall that he did, could the city then cover it?
He could, the first thing would happen, Building Safety would come out and determine whether it was in fact an illegal sign, since all murals are types of signs right now. And he would first sort of get a $300 ticket.
I wouldn't, the building owner would.
and then if you don't pay that $300 ticket, it kind of goes to $1,000, and then it could go. But
But could it be eventually, if the process was followed, if I was the neighbor and I was mad enough at him or his artist, could I have it covered with enough persistence?
Well, I mean, I don't know about covered. You could get fined.
Is that a dare? Yeah, it's on.
He theoretically could get fined, and that goes to the point that I was making, that there have been a few buffings that have made a lot of news, like Barbara Black in North Hollywood. And every time it makes us look like we're evil robots that are just coming out and bucking over. But there's actually only been 10 citations for violations of the sign code. So we can fine for murals. We'll talk about what you do. But so in the last 4 years, there's only been actually 10 official violations. So we are like doing our best not to enforce our own rules. But what we need is clearly a better system in place so that people don't have to operate in this gray area.
Your name is Daniel?
That's right, that's me, yeah, Daniel.
What you've done is you've gone to the property owners and you're basically breaking the law with their support. But
Yeah, that's right,
open
yeah,
eyes,
no,
because
yeah,
the
that's
community
exactly right.
wants it.
Yeah, I rallied the community to stand behind the artists in the
The
project.
city, but the city's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it with open eyes, and
Right.
as long as people don't complain too much.
You know, it's like, I kind of grew up in this world where rules, no disrespect, Tanner, fuck rules. You know what I mean? No, in all seriousness, I think we have
But you have
certain,
the community support.
we have certain expectations in the communities that we live in and the communities that we choose to exist in. And so it's, you know, utopia can only exist for one person at a time. So with that in mind, you know, we all kind of have to understand that we're a member of our own kind of immediate community. You know, like if someone from Beverly Hills comes into my neighborhood and says they don't like the art, fuck it, I don't care. You know, the people that live in that building, the people that see that every day, they do support that and they do like it. And overwhelmingly, the public response is in favor of public expression. It's the greatest form of human endeavor. It's something that's existed in the back of our heads. I don't care who you are. You've had the urge to mark your name on something at some point in your life, and that's something that's existed for thousands of years. So to criminalize it, like what you're saying, yeah, that's baloney. I don't get with that.
Boxes. I mean, there's so many of them. They're everywhere. These walls that you're talking about, it's great to have those, but a lot of people don't see those walls. A lot more people do see the electrical boxes. And I just think that they should be decorating. We shouldn't be a felon for
Right.
decorating.
And I totally agree with you, but I also agree that it's important to gain the permission of your neighbors to make that happen. And so that's kind of, you know, that's my thing.
What about the addiction of art? What about art being a drug and this being our therapy?
Absolutely, that's wonderful. And I think that I think that much in the same way that dispensaries exist for people that,
Yes,
you know,
I think
are
that this is like prohibition for someone trying to
absolutely, yeah,
express
yeah.
themselves.
So if we can create a context and a controlled environment where people can express themselves, you know, in that way, in a constructive way, then that's awesome.
And one area where Daniel's done really well is that the entire project and every individual mural has the support of the Los Angeles River and Artists Business Association and the Arts District, the Arts District bid, where he's helping me put on another event on this coming Tuesday in the Arts District in order to reach more people, but that he's sort of getting that community support is why there's not been any issues at all with the 70 plus murals put up.
It sounds like listening to you, I don't know, I'm very unfamiliar with this whole issue, but listening to you about the 1986 original ordinance, the whole purpose of it was to kind of, people aren't nobody wants to stop art, but you want to limit the subversion of art by commerce.
Yes.
That was the basis of it.
Yes.
And that's the whole issue. And because some of these people might end up being famous people and use that as a way of launching, which is an interesting dilemma.
It is. 1 second, Sasha. In that way, it's sort of. No, go ahead, Sasha. We'll get back to you.
Well, I wanted to see if you guys could talk about the time limit. That's one of my major issues, and Tanner mentioned that we're trying to take the time to do this right. But I really hope that we truly can revise what this is supposed to be a draft ordinance, because I feel like there's a lot of people that have been left out of this ordinance, primarily the graffiti artists and the street artists who paint on walls, but who like to change their images and like to control their walls. And by this ordinance, they wouldn't be able to change their walls for 5 years. And I think that's a major problem. I also think that not only is it limit their creativity and their ability to express themselves with an unfair amount of time, basically, I would be open to some time maybe, but 6 months or something. But I also think that it's going to be a huge burden and a hurdle for the artists, because I don't see many building owners agreeing to 5 years of maintenance on a mural, because in the end, unless the artist steps up and says, yes, I'm going to pay to restore this mural for the next 5 years, if it gets tagged, or in some neighborhoods there's really bad gang graffiti, there's really bad tagging, so they're just going to say, look, the owner's going to have to sign that he's going to take care of this wall for 5 years. And I don't see very many building owners really doing that. And so I don't see very many murals getting permitted for just the average artist. I see, big institutional, nonprofits and companies being able to commission murals and take on that maintenance for 5 years, but I don't see, the little shop owners and the artists themselves being able to take on 5 years. So maybe you guys could talk about that.
Well, also, how that applies to me specifically, because it's all about me, is I'm a political artist. I paint Obama, I paint Israeli figures, I paint people from all over the world. So 5 years for me, it's over. I put the mural up, and I get my message across, and the election's over. Everything in 5 years, we have a new president. It's completely, so 5 years is too long for
5 years. We had another talk about this, because that was my same issue too. I don't think that the 5-year law is necessarily going to be implemented by saying that, oh my God, you painted over this, and it's only been 6 months. I don't think anyone is going to say anything about it. A 5-year law is basically trying to keep someone like Coca-Cola out by saying this cannot be an advertisement that is intended to
You won't be able to distinguish, because
think
there's no
Coca-Cola
content
could have a
restrictions
5-year
in this ordinance as proposed. So they won't be. The point is that it's the most controversial art that needs the greatest protection. I mean, it'll be okay for all of the art except for that one controversial mural who's going to get complaints, and then that's the mural that's going to get cited. I mean, that's no protection at all.
Well, is there any chance that if underneath the 5-year law that it can be specific to the artist? The artist has access to it for 5 years. It doesn't have to be the same image for 5 years, but it can be that artist for 5 years who's in charge of keeping their piece.
So then the bigger question is who's responsible for the payment of it, which is the property owner or the artist? Whose name is on the piece? Is it the artist that's responsible for 5 years, or the property owner?
How about we just did it this way? We don't care. You give us a piece of paper telling us who's going to be responsible for it. That's the way it's written right now. It doesn't have to be the property owner.
The building owner gets cited if he has graffiti on his wall, not the artist.
If he has a permit in hand, it's not going to have a picture on it. He's going to have an affirmative defense to
No, I'm
say
saying if it
back
gets vandalized, if it gets vandalized,
Right.
But he can say
This is,
that
you're right. This is the point that you, Sasha's been very involved in this. You guys might know, we know each other very well. That the where your strongest argument, okay, is the maintenance issue. I totally buy you on that one, dude. That so I would suggest like keep saying this because I know it's important to you, and that's probably the strongest argument that you're going to make because I totally agree with that one. And it's not a burden on the property owner, I would argue, where because it doesn't have to be. It could be a foundation that pays for it. It could be the artist want to take it on themselves. It could be the tenant of the space. It doesn't have to be the building owner that takes on that maintenance requirement. And it's sort of a crazy, unknowable what if how much that's going to be anyway. So I don't, if we can find some sort of like documentation to put some numbers behind this, I'd love to have that conversation.
well, that's what I'm saying. Is if it's a short period of time, then you can see how it goes. Because you may not get any tags, you may get hit every week. So you kind of want to see how it goes, and that's the point. It's like 6 months. You can see, hey, I'll agree to 6 months. But I can't say what'll happen if it's getting hit every week for 5 years, and then I'm not gonna pay to fix that mural.
Keep saying it, Kat, especially when it counts when we go to the commission and we go before city council, because you know what I mean. That I from the pressure that I get from my bosses and the fear of city attorney, there's gonna have to be some kind of duration requirement. I don't think there's anything magic about 5 years. So keep saying it. There are already some outs for it. So for example, if a building owner sells the building, a new owner comes in, you're right, the building owner sort of, at the end of the day, owns the piece of property, owns the mural, therefore. If they want to destroy the building to build something else there, they'll be able to do that. If it's copyrighted, the piece of art, they'll have to give the artist the 90 days notice that's required by BAR and CAPA. Another way that even if they want to just expand the building, they take that wall out. There's another one that's not in the ordinance that I'm thinking of putting in the guidelines. None of these sort of how you can get out of the 5-year rules are in the ordinance itself. Those will be in the guidelines. One that has come up through conversations that I think is really important to have. There is going to be some kind of long duration thing that if it's 5 years, because that's what the draft says right now. Most startup businesses have like a 2-year lifespan if they're lucky. That you wouldn't then force the next tenant that comes in that space to have the last tenant's mural, I'd say. So I'd want to put in an out for that. So there will be ways that won't be a solid firm 5 years, but the more we open it up, man, the more that we're going to put the potential for it to be exploited for advertising. And so, yeah.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jose. Just going back to Steph, what you were saying about that issue about if they want to continue changing the images. And also, like you were saying about how the 5 years is mainly to deter a company like Coca-Cola or a company to. But couldn't the artists get away with it if they get the permit? But there's no limitation on production. So couldn't the artist, if you want to change the image, couldn't you say, well, we're gonna, we had a design review, and we're just gonna do another design. Can you get away with it?
This is funny. Can we turn off the cameras? I love how everyone is so very worried about the letter of the law, rightfully so, when it's time to write it. But I jaywalked across this street this evening. Okay, so most people are going to live and die in Los Angeles, never realizing that they have to ask our permission to paint on their wall in the first place. And therefore, however we design this program, it must be very forgiving. If anybody studied any amount of political science 101, you will know that there's sort of the absolute impossibility of enforcement of any rules. What it requires is that you have a legitimate and believable system that people are invested in and care in, and therefore want to follow the rules. And we from these words on paper, we force each other to co-construct reality around that. So for the rule abiders out there, like Mr. Lahoda, who, besides said fuck rules earlier, but the ones who want to follow the rules, who are asking for this permit, it will be there. For everybody else, I think this is what's going to happen. They're going to read, let me see your newspaper real quick. Yes. Hold on, I'm getting to you, Kat. People are gonna be in the LA Times and say like murals are legal, but it's gonna be in the LA Times. Murals are legal, and people are gonna go out and paint their walls. That's just what's gonna happen, and so it's not gonna be that scrutinized. Dude, you're right. The definition in the ordinance for alteration could mean you could take years and years to get it painted. You could say, oh, we haven't finished it yet. What people need in their hand is a mural permit, so that when building and safety comes and says, hey, that's a sign, you can say, back off. No, it's not. What people need is a mural permit in their hand. It's not going to have a picture on the mural permit,
no picture of
so that you can tell the LAPD or county sheriff, no, this is not graffiti, dude. This is an official sanctioned mural. I don't. I know you don't like the gray area in there, but it's a messy world, Stosh, where that's just how it's going to be, Kat. I don't know.
Quick break.
Yes, sir. Oh, wait, Swan has something.
It is a messy world, and we're all here for muralism. But I bet you none of us can actually say, what are we really fighting for right now? Okay, listen to me. Do we even know what are the last murals and who are the artists that we're fighting for right now? How many people in this
I'm fighting for you,
place,
Swan.
raise your hand
I'm fighting for you, Swan.
if you know the artists that are the last founding murals in Los Angeles right now?
The last founding?
Last five. Last five
murals that were made here?
That are over 50. Anyone?
I don't understand the question.
The person's over
They're not
50
even
of the
here.
murals.
Listen.
Next question.
Okay.
What happened?
Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
Are you trying
We're
to?
not even here. Most of these people are not even here. We're saturating them with these politics right now. Okay? Now, all you people here on the front,
Oh my God,
don't laugh at me. This is serious. Now, Tanner,
Yes, sir.
I don't know this is serious. With the last murals that are existing in Los Angeles, what are the last 5 murals that are standing in Los Angeles? Do you know them?
I still don't understand your question, but if
No.
you're accusing me
My
of not
question
reaching out
is-
to the broader community and the elders
No,
in this community, then you're wrong, Kat, because this is only the second meeting that
what
you've
are
been
the
to
last-
on this issue, and I've been to like 10 meetings.
Here.
So,
And the artists' names.
huh?
The last
The artists' names.
What murals are you talking about?
We're
Next
talking about
question.
the existing murals that we are fighting, that the whole.
There are more than 5 in this city. There are thousands, sir. I don't understand your question.
What about the ones of Judy Baca?
I saw Judy Baca this afternoon. What's your point, sir?
Okay?
I saw Judy Baca this afternoon. What's your point,
Okay,
Swan?
my point is, why are we going through all this litigation when we should just be painting walls?
Go paint, dude. Nobody made you be here. What we're trying to do is create a sensible system so people can paint their walls and
We're
not
talking
get
about
tickets for it,
advertising.
Kat. I know. Swan, can we talk
We're talking about
afterwards?
advertising. You guys are talking about advertising.
$99 for every piece that goes up in LA.
I understand money, there's millions.
There's a lot of
millions of
Yeah.
dollars
And
that are going involved.
Wait, Swan, wait.
in
I'm trying to get
this.
this gentleman. What's up, sir?
the thing is this.
There's nothing, dude. The best murals, like I say, dude, when I come up, and I know you guys hate when I come up and I talk like
I
this.
love it, Swan.
The best murals are in the ghettos, okay? Once, in the 70s, in the 80s, those murals where they're at, in the ghettos.
Create. Was I not in Watts on Monday night? I don't understand your point, Swan. What is your point, sir?
It's not about advertisement.
No, it's not.
But
Trying to
advertising-
create a space that artists make art in the city.
I'd like to hear what Derek was about to say.
Yeah.
What was
It's
that?
not about advertisement, it's not about.
Swan, can you hold on a second? I'd like to hear what Derek had to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
The No, they're just, you guys keep like.
Let him talk.
You guys,
Let him talk.
when it comes down to muralism.
Dude,
This
let him
cat behind
talk.
You guys can never see that.
Sorry,
Who are
Max.
these people who are really involved in the structure, in the muralism of Los Angeles, California.
Okay, but
America.
I'm
That's it.
Juan, you've only, this is only the second
Are you
meeting you've been
upset
to.
that
I've
you're
done
not
2
sitting
dozen
up
meetings
here?
in the
Is
city,
that what
Cat.
you're angry about?
Absolutely not.
Cat.
I just don't understand.
But Swan, hear me out real quick.
I'm trying to get these old school guys who are painting murals in South Central.
So where are they?
Los Angeles.
Create.
Why are they not
They're
here?
not here.
Who was in the house on Monday and watched?
This was a free event.
Why didn't you come
We
and
got-
watch our meeting we had on Monday
Where
night,
are they?
sir?
Look at all these chairs.
Good, perfect.
Where are they?
Create, who all was in the house on Monday night, sir? All right. Thank you for exactly. But you should be coming back to that. So Derek, sir, what's up?
Back to it, Derek.
What you guys are saying is that let's say I want to paint a mural, okay, I want to paint it, I don't know, on my grandmother's liquor store. So that's why she has a liquor store, what she said. So I'm going to paint this wall, I have to go to the city, I have to get a permit, I have to pay, I got to pay you guys.
$200.
That's really interesting to me. And then, someone has to okay it, right? And do I have to show the content of the piece?
No.
No.
Well, no, we do want a picture, but we don't scrutinize it at all. As long as you meet the minimum requirements.
History.
Who looks at this and says, this content is okay?
Nobody. Nobody.
What if it's obscene?
What if it's obscene?
There are already laws against that are outside of the control of the city of Los Angeles.
But you're not
So
gonna.
we would not approve an
You're not
obscene
allowed to
mural,
go
I
out.
guess.
But see, now here's the big overarching theme that I hear. I have to pay somebody to let me paint a property that I own or that I got permission from the owner from.
I'm sorry,
I think there's something.
where does that payment
in
go?
English language
The general
that constitutes, that's fucking bullshit.
Yes.
It's fucking bullshit because everybody pays taxes.
What about all the murals that are dying in Los Angeles right now?
We have properties, man, we got properties, if you have an old property.
What about all the murals that are dying in Los Angeles?
Swan.
With all these fucking taggers, and all these fucking idiots that are tagging over it, dude.
So is there, because I had that question too.
It's true.
I had the question of where does that, like, I even wrote it down, like, where does that $199 go?
Listen, there's public space and there's private space. If you're gonna go and, there's a lot of guys in this room that have gone out in the middle of the night and done some amazing stuff, unsanctioned. Okay? And then there's people that do it legally. They go out and they just paint because they got permission. All of a sudden, the city has gotten involved in actually curating what we can and can't do.
That's the way it used to be in the mural permitting system that we used to have in the city of Los Angeles until 2007 was done through the Department of Cultural Affairs. And a lot of artists did not like the way that they did it because they thought that they had a sort of free reign to regulate content and improve murals that they liked or didn't. The way that this system will work is that the city will not be making content distinctions because they won't have to get into is this art or is this advertising because there will be different permits. You will be applying for a sign permit or you'll be applying for a mural permit. Okay, here's.
But see, here's the way.
Hold on, let me finish the point. I'm going to say. Per state law,
advertisement and muralism are two different sections.
Everybody in this room is in agreement with that, Swan.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Advertisement.
The sky is blue, sir.
Listen to me. Advertisement means money.
Exactly.
And promotion. And ego.
Simple, like fun.
Muralism means art, love, and soul to the communities.
Okay.
Let me just, I just
Thank you.
You, sir. Okay, go and say what?
I'm talking to this gentleman right here. I'm trying to answer his question.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so per state law, these types of administrative permit fees cannot generate money for the city. They can only cover the cost of administration. In my role as a little bureaucratic person who has to follow all my bosses, the direction from city council is for us to make a cost-neutral program, right? So there's supposed to be a fee to cover the cost of administration. We've got to keep lights on in City Hall. I get paid, right? There's people that work there, right? Hold on real quick. So there's two ways legally by which we can set a new fee when we're creating some new fee structure for some new permitting system. We can either do a comprehensive fee study where I find out what exactly that cost would be for all of the associated costs of people to be there, getting paychecks, to stamp papers and shit like that. We can do that comprehensive study, or we can find another fee that already exists and say it's kind of like this, that it's about the same amount of work. So the cheapest fee in the zoning code is $199. So I found the cheapest one, which is what it costs if we have to sign off on your building permit. And I'm making the argument that since it's just an administrative permit, we won't be scrutinizing it. If you meet the minimum requirements, we're just going to stamp it. That there's so little staff involvement required that we can use the cheapest fee there. I'm very, very moved by these arguments that there should be no fee. Call me, dude. I'll help you tell you how to keep lobbying for it. I'm not the guy that can propose it, but it's the city council members that are going to decide it. And 2 of them attended the hearing that we had in City Hall on January 10th, 2 city council representatives, and said, hey, we support the mural ordinance without the fee. So I think that this is going to get a lot of traction as it goes forward in the city council. For help in making this argument, everybody, we already give out a couple different types of permits that we don't charge for. If you live in a home within a historic preservation overlay zone, and it's actually a contributing element to that historic preservation overlay zone, you have to ask our permission to paint your home from like a pre-selected set of colors. So, Swan, I'm talking, sir, I'm talking. So, we don't charge you for that permit, though. We just say, here, go paint your home this color. Sure, that's within the right range of colors. So, there is precedent there. There's strong arguments that are being made. I'm not the guy that gets to decide that, dude. Even though I come like the Wizard of Oz, talking about the city's going to do this, I work within, like, the structure.